let's talk about the very interesting relationship between ants and acacia tree. So, ants and the acacia trees in Africa have a very, very interesting and complicated symbiotic relationship with each other. The ants tend to live on the acacia trees and protect them from other insects and also herbivores that kind of just want to eat the acacia trees, and the trees in turn provide a home for the ants to live on, while also providing them with food through a few interesting adaptations. The acacia trees have two very interesting features on them that help the ants live there peacefully with the tree. One of them is these extrafloral nectaries. These extrafloral nectaries produce this very sugary sweet nectar which the ants feed on, and that helps keep the ants healthy and well fed so they can better defend the tree. The second are these, called the hollow spines, which are basically what they sound. They are these thorns that are naturally hollowed out, which make very, very good habitats for the ants to live and raise their larvae in. Overall, it's a pretty sweet deal for both the acacia tree and the ants that live on it. However, since it's such a sweet deal, there is quite a lot of conflict between different ant species and different ant colonies that want to use the acacias. Specifically, one species of acacia, the whistling thorn acacia, is super, super heavily sought after by at least 4 separate ant species. All of these different ant colonies really, really want to take specifically these whistling thorn acacias for their own. So they will wage warfare against each other to get the best acacia trees. Now, depending on the species, there are different strategies. A couple species are like super, super aggressive and will go and try to invade neighboring acacia trees. Now, how they do this, when their own acacia tree that they have currently colonized grows out its branches, it will reach towards other acacia trees and kind of become entangled in a canopy, and then they will transfer their own armies over to the neighboring acacia tree. If the tree happens to be empty, all good, no problem, they just take it over and colonize it. However, sometimes it is inhabited by ants of another colony or another species entirely, and that is not okie dokie for the invading colony. So there will be this all-out battle on the new acacia tree, and whichever ant colony comes out on top, they win that tree. Wonderful, and the losing ones are pretty much wiped out, or, depending on the species, might even be enslaved. However, there is one very interesting species, this guy, the Chromatogaster nidriceps. I think I'm saying that correctly, but probably not. They have a different strategy. They are kind of the most peaceful of the species that colonize the whistling thorn acacias, and they're pretty non-aggressive overall. Ideally, they would prefer to not fight with other colonies. So the strategy of this specific ant is they will trim the ends of their own acacia tree to stop it from touching any neighboring trees. By pruning and landscaping their own tree, they avoid the contact of their tree with neighboring trees and thus lower the risk of invasion by close by other colonies. Now, obviously, this doesn't always work. Sometimes the neighboring tree just keeps growing closer and closer and you can't really trim it all the way, so it does give a bridge to access their own tree. Also, sometimes invading ant colonies come from the ground, and in that point, trimming the tree was not really necessary in the first place. However, it is a useful and successful enough strategy that it has evolved to currently still be around in these very interesting ants.